over the years, I want to say since the Xbox One and PS4 era, like ever since that era, there hasn't been much graphical innovation. I want to say like making the jump from like OG Xbox and PS1 to PS2, but then 360 and PS3, and even like the 64 to the GameCube, or the GameCube to the Wii was a pretty good jump as well. Ever since then, like from the Wii to Wii U, from like Xbox 360 to One and PS3 to PS4, the graphical changes, at least in terms of making everything look much clearer, more dynamic, more detailed. Yeah, it looks good. You know, but it feels like they're trying to just make movies with real actors anymore. Like they're trying to, show every single blade of grass, show every pore on the character's skin, every little hair, every thread on their clothes. I don't think that that's necessary in video games, especially when video games, they're a way of, distraction, especially with fantasy video games. You might as well just be cosplaying in real life the way that these video games look so realistic. Just put on like a little, I don't know, actually like some armor suit, put like a cardboard sword here. All right, and just run around cutting the grass. Jokes aside, I feel like they are spending way too much time on, just graphics alone for a video game. Like, to the point where it looks like the story and the actual gameplay itself are of little value as long as the trailer looks good. Like, they don't even show gameplay in most trailers anymore. They just want to show you what it looks like. Look at this. It looks beautiful. It's an 8K. All right, like that was a big selling point for the PS5 when it first came out, that it was 8K. Does anyone have an 8K TV except Unbox Therapy? All right, no. They're thousands of dollars. All right, like 4K has become the new HD, and HD is like the new SD. All right, I feel like 4K. Like as long as we have that 4K, I feel like that's as good as I'm okay with it being as good as that. 1080p even. Like you can watch something, play something in 1080p, and I think it still looks pretty good. All right, like the OG Switch, 1080p docked. I think it looked just fine. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, it has to be 4K," and yeah, it looks good. Do I need it though? I'd rather see some improvements, in frame rate, in fluidity, and gameplay. You know, I feel like these developers would rather just sell you the idea of playing the game than actually give you a game to play. That's all I'm saying. They spend their whole budget, they spend years, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars just sell you a chopped experience. Like, okay, it looks good, but it's not even done. All right, and these games are costing 70, $80. They try to sell you deluxe editions, digital deluxe, ultimate deluxe editions, spending almost like $120 on a game that ain't even finished. Oh, but you can play a couple days early. All right. I don't really see much benefit to getting a game like pre-ordered and playing it early, except like if you're a content creator, like you really want to show your fans, that game. Maybe. I don't know, maybe because I'm a physical guy and I don't see too much benefit in that, but I don't know. They're just because that's just a one-time thing, Yeah, you get to play it early. But how much more did you spend? You spent like $20 just to play it, a couple days early. You couldn't wait. It's kind of like Christmas, you spend so much time without anticipating to open the presents, and then it's Christmas Eve. You're dying to open it, but you went the whole year without waiting for it. So it was another date. It's kind of like those last couple seconds of your plank. Maybe that's it. I don't know, but they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars selling you an unfinished experience, and then after they come out with DLC, paid DLC, okay? Minimum $35, okay? Off so you can finally get the complete version of the game. It almost feels like a pre-order scam. All right, like the product isn't even done, but they're selling you the pre-order so that they can fund it. It's just so expensive. You know, this isn't even me calling them broke or nothing. It's just genuinely irrationally, unsustainably expensive. All right, like some of these PS5, Xbox Series X games. I don't know about Nintendo, but maybe some of them too. You know, they're costing like hundreds of millions of dollars. All right, should they be hundreds of millions? I understand that, you know, the whole process has changed since, but even still, it's not drastically different. So the problem where these same companies, these same developers, even, directors, producers, used to be able to pump out like whole trilogies, quadrilogies, whole lineups of not just like, I want to say game franchises, but you know, they could make expanding stories. They could make side games. They made alternate games like with a different, you know, story and character, but it's in the same universe. You know, they would do all that in like one generation of games, like in the 360, GameCube, Wii, PS2, PS3 era. They would do sequels on sequels, and you know what? They were actually good. They weren't cash grabs because they just focused on what made it good. You know, the way that the game plays, and you know, it running well. As long as it plays well and it runs well, I feel like that's all you really need. You know, story is important, music is important, characters and their dialogue is important. As long as those three, you know, I guess side factors are met with the two main factors, that makes for a perfect game. Graphics are important because it's how you associate the game visually. But do you really need some like hyper realistic graphics? I don't think so. Especially, I'll make another video talking about growing up as a Nintendo fan, but I feel like, you know, Nintendo does especially well on this because their games run very well despite the graphics not being, you know, insanely advanced. Like, yeah, the Switch 2 has some upgraded graphics from the Switch 1, but, you know, even still, I feel like Switch 1 games look really good because it's not necessarily about, you know, how many blades are in the grass, how many hairs, how many individual hairs can I count on Mario's head, you know? I feel like it's, you know, what does this world look like? You know, it's more so being creative with what you have and trying to make more that isn't even necessary in most cases, at least in my opinion. And then they have these like service for life games where they make one game and they want this to last forever. All right, comes out in 2020, this gotta last until like everyone's lineage. Like, you gotta last until 3020. Like, that's how they want these games to have their lifespans. And even though, yeah, okay, you don't want your game to just come out and then no one play it anymore after like the first week. But is it really necessary to keep, you know, selling new DLC, wasting dev time on a game? Well, yeah, it was good. But you could honestly make another game. You could even make a sequel almost. Think about it with like Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2. You know, like Galaxy was so good that they didn't like, you know, make any DLC or like some sort of expansion. They decided to make a whole new game, the sequel. Same thing with, you know, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, it had DLC, which is good. Same thing with Modern Warfare 2. You know, it had two DLC packs, but that was it. You know, it just, you know, gave some upgrades. You know, um, just making the game more enjoyable, adding some new things to keep the player base not just coming back, but also entertained without, you know, repeating the same loop over and over again. But other games, you know, they sell you like half of the story and then like, oh, you know, DLC coming soon, so you can finish the game. Right before you get left on a cliffhanger, you'll get picked up. Just spend like 200 bucks. But that's all I gotta say. God bless y'all. Hope the game industry gets fixed.